Okay, James. Okay, James, we're ready.
Okay. All right. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Portsmouth Coffee Talks Evening Edition. During the holidays here, we're here and here with special, well, let me, with co-host Leah Drake Stitt, and our guest host, Dr. Ernestine Duncan. And the Colonel is on a family vacay, holiday vacay. But we want to welcome everybody and wish you a Merry Christmas in advance and hope everybody is doing well. But we are here. We want to, and we always have our special guest here. And now she's a guest host. She's actually one of us, not on every time, but she is a host. And Dr. Duncan, thank you for being here. And we like to have her periodically during the year to address the mental health situations and talk about things, especially this time of the year when a lot of people are festive and thinking about the holiday season, and other people, it's not the best time of the year for them because of the deaths that might have happened in the family during that year, or it's just some people have problems this time of the year, mentally and emotionally. And we want to talk a little bit about that, and especially in light of some high profile suicides we had, and we don't know if that's connected with the holiday season, but anytime we get a suicide of someone that people probably thought had the best of both all worlds, and you just never know what's going on deep inside somebody mentally, because and we'll talk about this later, Dr. Duncan, somebody that has a career, a wife and family, and how do they get to the point where you put your feelings about how bad you feel above your children and your family. But that just explains how deep mental
Yes.
health and depression can go, where it can
Yes.
just take you right out of the realm of reality and how good you actually have it. So we're going to talk about that, but we also want to talk about, not all the bad things that might happen with people, or the bad thoughts emotionally might have. It's also a joyous time for people, especially that going through things all year. So let's get into that. But first, I'd like to say hello, Leah. Leah, my
Hello, James.
my
How are
co-host
you?
there. How are you doing?
I'm
And
just
I always
glad that
talk.
you're on. I'm glad
Oh
you're on
yeah,
tonight.
yeah. Well, we'll tell everybody. I had a little bout with COVID, and I just want to let everybody know, it's not over. So still be careful and be mindful. And it's when it hits home. Before it hit me, a lot of close friends I heard about were having it, were coming down with it, and thank God we got the vaccines. I think that's what's really helping people.
Hmm.
And those naysayers that say, well, they had the vaccine, they still have it, but the vaccine wasn't designed to stop you from getting it, it stop you
Exactly.
from dying.
Exactly.
That's the bottom line, or getting, really sick. So still be mindful out there, folks, when you're in huge crowds, and the weather now brings us inside. We're during the summer, we were outside and people could be a little bit more free, but now we're inside and in large crowds. So just really be careful. Wear those masks when you're inside if you feel more comfortable doing that. And I would suggest that, especially people that might be immune compromised, with cancer or heart issues or things like that. So just be careful. Take it from me. But anyway, Leah, we always talk about you being the busiest person around. You know, Briefly, what did you do today? Because every day in your life is something amazing, especially when you go into the elementary schools and deal with the children. I know that's dear to your heart.
Yes, the
Talked
children are
about this
dear
too,
to my
how
heart.
That's
I
been
tell
something
you,
you've been doing since you were a teenager
well, you know,
in
Benay was
our
one of my
neighborhood.
babies. She was one of my
Yes,
babies. I carted around with me. So
yes, my wife.
yes.
Yeah.
But today was really an easy day because schools are closed. Schools closed on Friday. When no, school recently closed.
Okay.
And so we didn't have a dare session today, but
Okay.
I did go. I was invited to Big Homie's Christmas celebration at Swanson for the children of Swanson. And
Hmm.
so I went out to Swanson this afternoon and celebrated with the kids. It was good to be there with the babies and good to see the wonderful gifts that they were going to be given and also the great food that they were served this afternoon. So it was great to be out there. Mark Hugel, Councilman Mark Hugel was out, as well as Captain Sharice Orton from the fire department. So it was a beautiful affair. And last night the sheriff department for their after school program, they had the community liaison program had their Christmas celebration for the children who attended the after school program. And that was an amazing affair. It was really beautiful. The food was good. All the babies got gifts. They were able to give their parents gifts. So it was a great evening with the children. I
Oh yeah.
always have my best time on them with the children. And
Yeah.
it's also good when I ran into my Sankofa children. I ran into three of my Sankofa children at the event at Swanson. And another thing, I was in the store today and this little girl came up to me, "Hi, Mrs. Stith." I said, "Uh-oh, which school do I know her from? Which program?" But I mean, it's just such a joy to be with the young folks and to see them happy and to
Yeah.
see them doing positive things. So it's been a good week. It's been a good week of celebrating with children for the holidays.
Yes, and thanks for sharing. And remember, you don't always have to remember those people because you affected so many lives coming up. So and I think they understand and they have no problem
Yeah,
telling you, oh yeah, I was, you know, 10 years ago I was in San
for
Quentin.
real, that's for
Yeah.
sure.
But
So it was
Dr.
a good
Duncan,
day,
Dr.
great day.
Duncan, as nice as that sounds, with Leah going to these celebrations, it's probably somebody at that celebration that's probably having issues, you
Hmm.
know, that we normally can't recognize. So talk a little bit about, people that go through things, especially during the holidays. Some people go through things all year, but especially during the holidays, it can be even doubly troublesome,
Exactly.
troublesome for some people.
Right. There is data that says during Christmas, during this holiday season, American Psychological Association found that about 38% of Americans say that this is more stressful of a time for them than any other time of the year. And we know that that contributes to what happens with our mental health, as well as a very obvious fact, and that is there is less sunlight during this time of the year.
Mm,
Exactly.
And the lack of sunlight exposure has predisposed some people naturally to increase levels of depression. So we see depression as a factor during this time of the year. We see grief and loss
Hmm.
because the holidays typically for us represent a time of memories, sharing good times with the people that we love. And there are those who have a difficult time experiencing the holidays because they've lost loved ones over the course of the year,
Hmm.
or they're thinking about holidays past,
Hmm.
growing up as a child and no longer having your parents available, the typical kind of Christmas that you knew with dinner at your mom's house or dinner at Big Mama's house. And Big Mama's no longer with us. And so that brings about grief and loss for people. There are some people who experience a great deal of anxiety during the holidays. They want to get gifts for people,
Hmm.
but they don't have the resources to do that. And then there's guilt that's associated with that. We also know that people feel that it's the end of the year and they feel like they're running on fumes, running on empty. There's so many holiday parties, there's so many events to attend. And sometimes people feel the obligation to attend those things, even though physically they may not feel that they're up to that. So while the holidays generally, we characterize them of times as of joy and of happiness. Sometimes the very things that bring some people joy and happiness bring other people sadness, grief, feelings of loneliness, isolation, and anxiety.
Mhm. You know, and Dr. Duncan, you know, you're talking about this lack of sunlight. It never hit me as hard as it did when I had to go to Alaska for my job numerous times. And to go there when you have 12 hours of daylight, 12 hours a night, and the depression, the mental health is great over there because they're not getting that sunlight, you know, over a long period of time. And it has a major impact. And I never thought about it before until I went over there. And like you said, what yesterday was the shortest daylight time that we've had all year. And
Yes.
it does have a major impact upon your psyche, you know, and on the entire body, really, when you think about it, you know.
Yes, neurochemically, it does not allow us to produce the same types of hormones, neurotransmitters that have to do with mood. And
Hmm.
so a very easy fix is that people can sit under light.
Hmm.
It's something that people can do, and it's natural. It doesn't cost anything except our time. But you could sit there. There are lights that are actually therapeutic, but really just increasing the amount of light that
Hmm.
you sit under or that you're exposed to. Sometimes they suggest that people sit in the window early in the morning
Hmm.
for 20 to 30 minutes just to get the sunlight. But then when there are those periods, for example, like today, there was no sunlight
No
today.
sunlight. Mm-mm.
So you might have to do with indirect sunlight, or you might have to do with artificial light.
Hmm.
But it is very important because it impacts the chemicals of our body that
Hmm.
have to do with mood. Mhm.
And you can really tell it because when it's raining and it's dreary outside, you just don't have the energy. You don't have just you have the lackluster, you know, you don't want to do anything. All you want
That's
to do is go home and go to bed and do nothing, you know.
that's
It
Rainy
takes
exactly
days and
everything out of you.
Mondays.
lazy days of money. Yeah, that's exactly right. People don't always understand that it is a natural response to the lack of sunlight, and sometimes things have to be done to intervene with that to
Hmm.
improve a person's mood. It does exacerbate depression.
So you say
You
sit in
know,
the light for 20 minutes.
Daily is one of the recommendations.
Okay,
yeah.
okay.
Also has a physical benefit
Yes, it
being
does.
in, but
For the vitamin D.
for the vitamin D. But Dr. Duncan, you know, mental stability, you know, a lot of us, you know, might be going through some things and don't realize it, you know, because we are in a culture that takes so many things for granted. Just like you are talking about light, you know, people don't take that for granted, but you know
Exactly.
how you feel when the daylight saving time switches over. Oh man, it's dark at 5:30. You know,
Hmm.
the whole day is over then, as opposed to, you know, 5:30, your evening is just beginning. Excuse me.
Mhm.
But people that don't realize that they're going through, because just like I was talking about the Twitch, Stephen Boss,
Hmm.
you know, and all the things he had, but still committed suicide. And I think they're looking into that too. But the initial report that he committed suicide, and looking at, he had everything. And some of us might have everything or not have everything and not really know how depressed we are until that moment that you know, because I always wonder, I think we talked about on one of our previous shows, I always wonder right at that moment, you know, before they pull the trigger or whatever way they go, do they have that second thought that then it's too late because it's so spontaneous sometimes it comes. I don't, not too many people have a long plan suicide, you
Mm-mm.
know, long suicide plan. So what do we do? How do we recognize it? We always talk about recognize it in others. How do we recognize it in ourselves so we can make sure that we can get help? Because other people might not be able to see it in us, you know, but even though they're trained to see it, like yourself, you might be trained to see some things, but you might miss some things. But what do we do? How do we and not self-medicate, but how do we, you know, look for
So
things within
self-assess.
Hmm.
self-assess?
I think this is one of the reasons why I love the opportunity for these conversations, because there are not many spaces where we feel comfortable to be able to talk about this.
Mhm.
And there may be someone who's listening tonight who, because of what we're talking about, can think about whether or not it applies to them. Or, she said that this happens when you're feeling this way. I felt that way.
Mhm.
And so just being in the context of the conversation, I'm not sure how we can be aware of it for ourselves, because often we're defending
Mhm.
against it. We're denying it. We're distracting ourselves. We're not paying attention to it on our own. So when there are conversations like this, and Portsmouth Coffee Talk has a following that may have people in it who are experiencing issues around their mental health in the holidays, and hearing this conversation may allow them to think about how it relates to them, if
Mhm.
it relates to them. The next piece is us being able to, those of us who are insightful, being willing to have those conversations with people. And that is to say, generally, to everyone that we come into contact with, it doesn't have to be the person that we see crying, the person that looks real anxious to us, or the person who lost their grandmother
Mhm.
last month. They say, ask your strong friends,
Exactly.
how
Exactly.
are you doing?
Mhm.
And if you ever need somebody to talk with, I'm available to you.
Mhm.
And sometimes we get afraid to do that because then we think we've got to carry the ball across the finish line.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
really, people just most of the time need someone to talk to. And when they have that type of trust and that willingness, they know that someone is willing to hear them.
Mhm.
Sometimes that's enough. When it's not enough, there are resources, community service boards. There is now the suicide hotline,
Mhm.
988, where we can direct people. We don't have to be the healer,
Mm.
but we can be individuals who point people to the help that is available for them.
And Dr. Duncan, Paul Laurence Dunbar said, "We wear the mask."
We wear the
And
mask.
we often want to mask what's going on in our lives. And it's usually that person, that happy, outgoing person who's really experienced a lot of stress and a lot of distress in their lives. They don't show it because they're always on the up. But usually they're the ones sometimes you have to watch out for. As you say it, sometimes they're the ones you have to go to and say, are you okay? Is everything okay? How you feeling? Just something, because those individuals who are outgoing and always upbeat, they have the need to nurture everyone else,
Yes.
but they don't nurture themselves.
And if we think about it, because your point is so well taken, if we think about it, people wear the mask because the mask is reinforcing.
Exactly.
We reinforce it.
Mm-hmm.
I can remember times in my life where, because of things I was going through, I might see somebody who looked depressed or who I thought might be depressed. And I might actually think, I don't want to deal with that today.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so that person sensing that may then be upbeat and happy. And what's going on with you? They may offer to take care of me.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have to understand the extent to which we reinforce people wearing the mask.
Mm-hmm.
And that is why it is key to let people know it's okay to talk about that
Mm-hmm.
with me. This is a safe space. I'm not going to repeat it, but I really want you to be okay. I want you to be okay.
And it's important that you find that one person who can be your confidant, who, whatever you're going through, that this is one person I can go to. I know I can talk to them. I know that it's going to stay between the two of us. But if that person knows that I need some help, that person is going to try to assist me in getting the help that I need in order to correct whatever's going on in my life.
Exactly. And those who hear, right, the person that is the trusted friend, this is why honest communication is so critical, because there may be times, as I alluded to, where you're so overwhelmed, you really can't take on somebody else's
Exactly.
stuff. So you've got to be able to have the honest conversation with them. I care about you. I hear this is a difficult
Mhm.
time for you, but let me walk with you and help you to get the help that you need,
Yes.
because right now I'm on empty.
Mhm. Mhm.
And because no one wants to come to you. I don't want to come to you, Leah, and weigh you down when I know you're already weighed down
Exactly.
and you may not tell me.
Mhm.
You know,
Mhm.
one of the things, because I don't know if I have the face for it, but people say, I just hate to bother you. I want to just, but I hate to bother you. And what I make the agreement with them is, if I can't handle it, I'll let you know.
Mhm. Mhm.
So until I say that, you have every opportunity and the privilege to talk with me.
Mhm.
That's fine. But
Mhm.
at the time that I can't do it, I'll let you know.
Mhm. Mhm.
Hey,
And that
Dr.
begins an honest dialogue.
Yes.
Dr. Duncan, you, as the Colonel would say, you said a mouthful there, and I have to admit, that even I have, you said you might be going through something. You see somebody's depression, like I don't want to deal with that today. And I have to admit, sometimes somebody might call, and I know that person is going through something, but I'm not ready to deal with that. But you're telling me something that one of the best things I can do for that person is to let them know I can't handle this now, or maybe or guide them some other place. But to ignore them altogether, especially if
Mhm.
they are a friend or consider you a friend, is not the best thing to do,
Mhm.
because you wouldn't want somebody to do that to you. You would rather
Exactly.
them to be transparent enough to say, okay, yeah, I'm going through some things right now too. So, let's talk about this later, or maybe you want to talk to somebody else or get some professional help. But
Mhm.
to ignore that person, we're just adding to that person's mental instability.
Mhm.
Not
And
knowingly, we
mhm.
might push them over the edge by ignoring them altogether.
And it's a trust thing.
Yes.
You know, there are some psychological theories that talk about when people feel like they can trust the world, it gives them better coping strategies.
Mhm. Mhm.
And trust the world means, and it starts in childhood. You know, it's Freud. We all have
Mhm.
heard of Freud.
Oh yes.
But Freud says, as a child, when a child puts themselves in the position to need something, and he says in infancy, we cry. And when a child who cries is responded to, that child learns to trust the world.
Mhm.
But when that child is not attended to and they cry, they interpret that they have no agency in the world.
Mm.
I need help. I need changed. I need to be changed. I need somebody to feed me. And nothing happens. And Freud's theory, and there's a lot of um, criticism of Freud's theory, but in my opinion, there are some parts of it that do have some credibility. When we don't learn to trust, when we're unable to trust the world, it leaves us insecure. And so sometimes when people reach out to us and we ignore them, it further reinforces I can't trust the world. When
Mhm.
I reach out for help and support, it's not there for me.
Mhm.
But I also want to say we have to look at it as a two-way street, because while we may make ourselves available to someone and there'll be times when we can't do it, other people have to also, as friends, respect that for us,
Mhm.
because it's it is unfair for people to have to be available to people all of the time as well. Right. So
Mm.
we have to set boundaries. And that's one of the recommendations, almost like a treatment strategy
Mhm.
that is for people during the holidays. Set boundaries.
Mhm.
You don't have to go to every party that you're invited to. You don't have to give a gift, give a card
Mhm.
to everyone that you know. Set limits and set boundaries. A lot of the study of holidays and mental health now looks at triggers. We
Mm,
can put ourselves in situations that trigger negative emotions.
mm-hmm,
And guess what? Sometimes those triggers are our family members,
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
right? So sometimes putting up boundaries and putting up healthy boundaries means I'm not going home
mm-hmm,
this Christmas, or I'm going to go to my uncle's house, but I'm only going to stay for an hour. There's even research now that's looking at placing children in toxic environments for the sake of family during the holidays, mandating that children go places where they may have been abused, where they may have been neglected for the sake of family being together. And if you could imagine having to be around someone who hurt you just because your parents say it's the holidays, what type of anxiety does that produce for someone who's forced into that situation?
mm,
So boundaries.
Yeah, even Dr. Duncan, even those situations with family too, is so much starts with family, where you might be around family around the holidays, and everybody in there has success stories, or doctor, lawyer, or you know, executive or something like that, and you haven't gotten there, and oftentimes you have been around longer than them. You know, that can be affecting to you being around a family member, not wanting to be around them, but you feel an obligation to be a part of the family. But and just the mere fact of everybody talking, then saying, "Well, what are you doing?" Uh,
mm-hmm,
uh, you know,
We
uh,
hear, what are
families
you
need to be
doing?
aware of that kind of conversation, and comparing careers and everything is not the best thing to do in a family setting,
mm-hmm,
because
mm-hmm,
everybody's not going to be successful at that moment.
mm-hmm,
It happens, and it happens with career, but it also happens with, when are you getting married?
mm-hmm,
When are you going to start a family?
Family.
mm-hmm,
And people feel very uncomfortable in those situations sometimes, because family meaning well, but because you don't fit that mold or that template and you don't meet expectations, people leave there feeling like they've lost some of their confidence.
Mhm.
They don't feel as efficient and effective
mm-hmm,
as their relatives because they don't have the house. They
mm-hmm,
don't have the 2-car garage. They don't have the dog. They don't have the career.
mm-hmm.
And they're left feeling very isolated and alone, even though they're in the midst of a house full of people.
Mm. Well, Dr. Duncan, I'm thinking I was talking to some people recently about counseling, and you know how counseling is a stigma in our community. And one lady said, well, counseling is just a method of giving you a crutch to blame your parents or to blame something on your childhood. Don't you think you need to get past what your parents said to you? Don't you need to get past what may have happened to you as a child? And then I was listening to Joy Behar the other day. She says when she was young, her daddy never told her she was beautiful. He always said that her cousin or her sister, whoever it was beautiful, but never. So she always thought that she was ugly, and she carried that throughout life. So, what's your say, as Colonel would say? What's your say? What say you? What
What
say
say
you?
you?
What
We're
say
gonna
you?
keep we're gonna keep the colonel's presence
We'll keep
here,
the
Yeah,
Colonel
even though he's
alive here
not
today.
here.
What
he's
say
here.
you, Dr. Duncan, about the fact that counseling provides a crutch for people to use as a reason why they're doing the things that they do?
I would say yes. And I would say that that's not, but there's nothing wrong with that.
Mm-hmm.
If you were to tell me that I could not use a crutch after breaking my leg,
Mm-hmm. Hey, I love it. I love that
it,
analogy.
It would be really easy for me to tell you something
Mm-hmm.
unless you want to carry me around for the next 6 weeks, right?
That's
But I
right.
think that because we still use that stigma often about mental health, mental illness, and counseling therapy, we now equate a crutch in that instance to something negative.
Mm-hmm.
But there are some people, because of their life experience, because of trauma that they may have experienced recently, they are crippled
Mm-hmm.
and they need something to help them get through that period, because counseling and therapy never cure the situation.
Mm-hmm.
They never make it so that you won't have difficulty in the future, but it provides you with coping skills
Mm.
that you can then apply to whatever the situations that led you there. But more importantly, I think more importantly, some may disagree, but more importantly, those same coping skills will help you as you deal with situations in the future.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So yes, is it a crutch? Yes,
Mm-hmm.
because people are often crippled by their emotional circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
And as with any other break, any other tear, you need a support
Mm-hmm.
until you become strong enough to be able to operate on your own.
Mm-hmm.
And the purpose of therapy is not to stop it being a crutch. It is to provide you with that support until you are strong enough to stand on your own, and provide you with the tools that you then can use to navigate successfully through the rest of your life.
Love, 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 love that analogy. Love it.
Yeah.
But let me ask you this then. What about people who have had trauma in their lives, but yet can't remember the trauma that took place in their lives?
And it gets triggered, right? So it's just, we're talking a lot tonight about the work as I attribute it to Freud, because Freud talks about our subconscious, our unconscious, and our conscious awareness. And he believes, his theory, he was the, I guess, most prominent and maybe the first to talk about that there are often things that happen in our conscious awareness that are so painful to us that we repress them.
Mm.
And by repressing them, they do not go away. They just leave our conscious awareness. And periodically, they will get triggered because they're just below the surface of our conscious awareness.
Mm-hmm.
And when they get triggered, that's when you hear people say, I don't know why that song always makes me cry.
Mm-hmm.
One of the most strong elicitors of memory is smell. And that's why they tell you when you're selling your house to have these certain aromas in your home, because it makes people remember the good times.
Mm-hmm.
But there are some smells that are reflective. They bring out memories of people of bad experiences.
Mm-hmm.
And so people have the emotional response to something that is repressed, right? And so we have a whole lot of techniques that we can use therapeutically to help people to deal with those unconscious, subconscious feelings, bringing them into awareness, but allowing them to be able to learn how to cope with them. Because the repression comes because it is so scary to me that I can't deal with it. And so I push it down.
Push it down.
I push it down. But it never goes away.
It's there.
It's there.
Right under the surface.
And that is why Freud talked about it being anxiety producing. Because if you think you don't want it, you don't want that thing. And so you're fearful all the time that's going to creep out. Right. And so you do everything you can, but it leaves you very uneasy, and it doesn't allow you to really fully be present. And that's where all this mindfulness movement has come from.
So what are your thoughts on this mindfulness?
We need it. We need it to be able to stay in the present moment. Now, one of the things I loved about the beginning of the show today was that you talked about the things that bring you joy and have
Mhm.
brought you joy for such a long time. Visiting the schools, sharing with the children, and really loving those moments, right? And it sounds to me that when you're there and when you're with the children, you are enjoying the moment.
Yes.
But how many of us are in moments that are enjoyable for us, moments that we should have gratitude, but we're thinking about what we got to fix for dinner, where we got to
Mhm.
go next. Is the car on E because I need to get gas?
That's true.
And don't forget, and we don't stay present in the moment. So
Mhm.
we are running on empty.
Mhm.
If we slow down, right? Because remember, if for any of us who've ever done mindfulness, what do we really center on? Our breathing.
Mhm.
And do we know why? We focus on our breathing because most of us don't breathe fully.
Right.
We're so busy doing so many other things, we don't even breathe the way that innately we're
Mhm.
supposed to breathe. If you look at an infant breathes and their whole diaphragm and
Yes.
everything
Everything expands. Yes.
rises
Mhm.
because they're taking in ample oxygen to support the functioning of their body. As we get older, even it being toddlers, we stop breathing regularly.
Mhm.
And if we really pay attention to our breathing is very short and it's more rapid than it
Mhm.
needs to be.
Mhm.
And so mindfulness allows us to try and learn how to get out of the distractions, clear our minds so that we can focus on our bodies and get the things that we need organically to our body. We're running on overdrive.
Yes, we are. And
Yeah.
and that's the good thing about the Apple Watch. It tells you it's time to have a mindful moment. It tells you it's time to stop and breathe at various points in time throughout the day. But I'm thinking about all the times when it has popped up on my phone and I've just ignored it.
Mm.
And I'm thinking about other times when it pops up on my watch and I really pay attention to it at that moment and what a difference it makes when I pay attention to it, as opposed when I just say, oh, well, I don't have time for this now,
Yeah.
but
I'm in the
it makes
middle
a
of
big
something.
difference.
Exactly. Exactly. And if you ask me, I'm kind of on the fence about these Apple Watches because they create yet another stressor,
It
right?
does. It
You know,
does.
I watch people because I refuse to get one. I really
I
want
can't,
one.
I can't live without mine. That'd be my stressor without it.
Exactly. But it's learned.
Yeah, it is. It
It is
is.
learned. And I watch many of my friends, you want to talk about staying in the moment. We're having a conversation and because it buzzed or whatever, it vibrated or whatever. And so they're not even present in the
Yeah,
moment
yeah.
because they're constantly being reminded. And
Mhm.
wouldn't it be good if you could pay attention enough to your body to say, you know what, I need to take a minute.
You take
I
a
need to
break.
take a
Yeah.
break
Mhm.
and not be prompted
By the watch.
by a watch.
You
Because
know,
you're going to be so distracted, you can convince yourself, no, I really don't need it. Because I got to finish this
I
report
gotta
right.
finish what I'm doing.
So pay attention. Can we pay attention to our bodies
Mhm.
so that we know, you know what, I'm not paying attention to my breath. I need to take a few deep breaths right here. I need to clear my mind. And sometimes it only takes 3 minutes. We don't have to do it for an hour and 45 minutes. 3 minutes can be effective.
Exactly. It takes you just okay. Follow the scale, and it takes you breathe. Okay, release it. It takes you through all of that now.
Yeah, it does. But if you don't do it,
Yeah.
and for me, it sets up a barrier
Yes.
between you knowing, see, because it gives you another reason why not to trust your body.
Exactly.
Trust the
Exactly.
clock and not trust
Like
your
the
body.
body. That's for
We know
sure.
when we feel uptight. One of
Uh-huh.
the things that happens for me a lot
Yes.
is my shoulders.
Mm-hmm.
And I have, since I've started paying attention to it, I'm sitting at my laptop and I'm doing, and I may get an email that I have to rewrite 3 times because I'm trying not to sound like I really feel about it. And the next thing I know, I'm like this.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
And
like I
that
am right now.
and it caught after a while, the muscles in our neck and our shoulders become strained.
Mm-hmm.
And I can say, and I want to talk about it honestly because it happens to us all. So
Mm-hmm.
people say, well, even though you're a psychologist and even though you know better, I have a knot
Mm-hmm.
right here in my shoulder that I often have to stop and stretch out
Mm-hmm.
because the tendency is, right, for me to work on my laptop and my posture and
It's
my
not good.
emotional
Mm-hmm.
state leads me to be in an unnatural position.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But if I'm not paying attention to my body, then I'm not going to know that.
Exactly.
Ernestine, I sit like this because I used to sitting on the bench when I was playing
Oh,
basketball.
there
So
we go
this is
back to
the
those
way I used to
basketball
sit.
days.
So
You go back
this
to
is a
basketball.
yeah, this is a
But
learned habit that I
yeah,
picked up in high school. So it's
okay,
nothing
but
mentally about this or
okay,
you know
but
physically.
with
This is
all due respect, and I have the utmost respect, how long ago was it that you sat on the basketball bench?
well, it was high school, but it was quite a few years.
Okay,
So
okay,
so
okay,
it's permanently set in. But
okay.
anyway, I want to say I hope going into the new year, we're gonna always have these shows, but I hope a lot of other people have shows like this because
Yes.
my issue is, is it reaching the people it needs to reach? I mean, you can
Mm-hmm.
just see how the way people drive. It's
Mm-hmm.
something in the way people are driving,
Oh
like
my goodness,
this
yes.
guy passed me like he was in a hurry, like he was going to the emergency room, and I was kind of behind him, and he went to Krispy Kreme. You know, I said,
He needed
was
that donut. He needed that sugar high.
Sugar
He
rush.
needed
yeah,
that
was
sugar high for the moment.
That's
was the
right.
hot light on or something like that? But to put yourself in that position, you have to rush and go in and out of traffic, and you can see them in their detention, and you're going to Krispy Kreme.
Mhm.
You know, so I hope these things reach in the new year. A lot more people will be
Yeah, that's
doing
true.
these things, and maybe we need to go where the people where the tensed up people are. I don't know if it's DMV or somewhere. I don't know because those drivers need something.
Krispy
But
Kreme. We need to go to Krispy Kreme.
how about that? Yeah, you stand outside Krispy Kreme and just talk about mental health. Probably catch a lot of people. But I want to mention this too. It's on my heart. The 3 student athletes that were
Yes.
killed at University of Virginia, and I think about how many people that affected. Those 3 people,
That's right.
immediate families, cousins, friends, and how they'll have to make it through this season. And what I want to ask about that, in a situation like that, us as friends, how do we approach, how do we read the room per se, because we can have good intentions and say things or try to be things, and sometimes they might just want to be left alone, but other times they might need the help from their friends. And so yeah, I know it might not be a perfect answer for that, but what's the best way for us to read the room as far as dealing with friends that we know have gone through some horrific things like losing your college kids. You send them there to extend their future, and they get killed.
Mm.
You know, and just today a teenager was killed in Portsmouth. So
I've heard that.
yeah.
Um, although there is no perfect answer, you're right. Many times people just need to have their feelings validated,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so I will often say, I know you've been through something really hard, something that most people don't ever experience. And I really can't imagine how you might be feeling. But if there's anything I can do,
Mm.
whether that be a conversation, whether that be a cup of coffee, whether that's giving you a referral, just know I'm available.
Mm-hmm.
Because often people don't want to burden. First, people may not be aware of their own feeling. As you said earlier, they may not have the insight that they're depressed. They may not have the insight that they're having a difficult time. They may be so overwhelmed, they don't even have the words to express it. Then secondly, that once they get to that point, they may not know who can handle what it is that they're feeling. And so often they just need to know that somebody knows they're not doing well, given the
Mm-hmm.
circumstances. And when they're ready to talk, then we are available for them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And Ernestine,
Um,
I think if you approach them, make sure whatever you're doing, your focus is on them, because so often people will approach, just like if you say, well, I'm not feeling too well, and that person comes back and say, well, me either. I have the same problem. I said, well, look, and it makes it, when I'm in those situations, it makes me not want to tell some
How
people,
about that?
you're exactly
that I
right.
have a backache if they're going to come right back at me. Well, I have one too, or mine's is worse.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
are
Or
you
James, they
focusing
come to you and
on
say,
me or,
or, or they come to you and say, "Oh, I know how you feel." No, you don't know how that person feels because
You do not.
everyone deal with situations differently. So you don't know how they feel at that particular moment, So I
and,
think it's I think we should never say, "I know how you feel," okay?
Mhm, mhm.
Because you don't know what they're
You
feeling at
don't.
that particular point in time in their lives.
And
But James,
and
before we
sometimes they
go,
don't.
I want to touch on one other thing because we are a military town. And recently we've had a rash of military people committing suicide. We just had, I think, 4 recently who committed suicide and what have you. And I was talking to our new city councilman, Mark Hugel, who is a rear admiral, retired rear admiral. And I was saying, what is going on? Why are all these suicides taking place with military people? Because surely there's ample help for them. And what he was saying was the number of people who are suffering from PTSD, there are not really ample services out there for them. And oftentimes it's hard for them to get into the Veterans Administration to get the assistance that they need. So he shared something with me, and I think we need to share that with those of you who are out there now, because he serves on the board of the UP Center. And the UP Center has partnered with Coin Network Veterans Clinic in Virginia Beach. And he said in this particular clinic, if you serve 6 years, and your family can't receive assistance because you're not retired from the military, okay? You can get the services, but your family can't get the services. But he said that this Coin Network, this Veterans Clinic in Virginia Beach, through the UP Center, you and your family members are able to receive treatment at no cost. You have no insurance, it's not a problem. They're there to serve veterans' family, and they said they will not turn anyone away. So for all the veterans out there, if you're suffering from PTSD, if you're having a mental health crisis, contact the UP Center in Portsmouth, Virginia, or the COHEN, COHEN Network Veterans Clinic in Virginia Beach. They are there to provide service for you and your family members. And prayerfully, because I mean, every week, I don't know what it is. One time they said, well, maybe they're in port too long. Or maybe some are saying, well, maybe one has decided to commit suicide, and then you get the copycat effect. You just don't know what, but it needs to be addressed because we're really losing a lot of servicemen, especially in this area. We're hearing about it in this area through suicide.
We used to participate through Grove Church and Norfolk State in the Out of the Darkness Walk. It was to educate about mental health, mental wellness, but to also prevent suicide. And one of the things that they would say during those, we would do walks with them, the community walk, they would say, suicide is the most preventable form of death because it is the result of untreated depression. And so if we could impact people's depression in a proactive way, we could be really successful in reducing the numbers of suicides that occur. What we know in regards to suicide is that men use more lethal methods, and that is why they are often more successful. Women will make more attempts, but tend to use more passive means where they can be rescued.
Yes.
They may take pills and someone finds them, but men will use a gun, jump off a bridge. They will do something that almost ensures that they will be successful with the suicide. But it's important for us to understand that if depression is contributing to that, the kinds of things that we're talking about, check in with people.
That's right. That's
Give
right.
them the opportunity to know what resources are available. And again, you don't know the lives you may have impacted just by giving the information tonight about the partnership between the Up Center and this other agency. Giving people resources is the best that we can do.
But
You're right about that.
Good information, Leah. Thanks for that, because it is a problem. And I think about the military. You go back to high school days where you get a lot of guys together and guys pick on each other, and really, it might be something like that in the military, but at a higher level, where, you really can dig in deep to somebody's emotional feelings. So, but I want to go into this now because, like the song says, this is the most wonderful time of the year. And knowing the reason, the real reason for the season, Ernestine, I see your background there. That's another way we display or we celebrate the season with the Christmas trees and all the celebrations. So, but although it might be dark moments for some people, but for others, this might be the time of the year where people really get a chance to, like you said, breathe, because a lot of people have time off this year, more time off than they normally have. The kids are around. So this might be good times for some people, emotionally, and they might look forward to that after the stresses of all year. So talk about how the Christmas and holiday season can also be an emotional uplift as far as mental health.
And I think that it's important to talk about, even for those who are stressed and experiencing issues around their mental health, that they can utilize some of these very same strategies. One of them we've talked about already, and that's gratitude. What are you grateful for at this time of the year? Are you grateful for your family? Are you grateful that you have the extra time? And it's all a matter of perspective. The same person, one person who has time at home with its kids could be so happy. I have more time off. Now I can spend time with my children. There's going to be another one who's at home with the kids, and it's frustrating for them. So it's all a matter in your cognition. How glass half empty or glass half full. Same stimulus, but how do you see the glass? Full or empty? And so one of the tactics that we believe people can use to help with that is being grateful. So what is it that you are grateful for? Health. Do you have a reasonable portion of health? Are you grateful for the fact that you have a job and so many don't? It's all in the way that we choose to look at it. And sometimes people feel like they have no choice but to look at it in a negative way. But we ask them to just please find one thing that you feel good about, one thing that you feel positive about. Again, too much joy and too much happiness can be stressful as well. So the boundaries come into place, because one of the things that we see that sometimes triggered here is that people abuse substances. And so you may have too many cocktails. You may, use other drugs. Right now, people are using marijuana a lot more frequently than before, and other drugs as well. And so, celebrating, again, it has to be controlled. There
Mhm.
have to be boundaries. So even in the happiest of times, we talk about using gratitude and setting boundaries to be able to help people to get through the holiday season, even when things are good.
Yes. But I
Yeah,
tell you
and
what, Ernestine too, and James, I had to go into the store to purchase some grocery items today. And it was so refreshing to hear the Christmas music. I know some people don't like it. Some people don't like Christmas music, but it was so good hearing the Christmas music. And everybody I walked past said, Merry Christmas.
mhm.
Merry Christmas. I said, my goodness, if we could keep this year round, and we could just bottle this and save this for when Christmas is over and open that bottle and let it out again come January 1st, it would be such an amazing thing. Everybody I walked past today said, Merry Christmas.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Leah, it's amazing. I worked at Nordstrom for years, so Christmas was a big time in retail, and it was so amazing, so funny. Sometimes some of the regular customers, I didn't even recognize them during the Christmas holiday. I said, "Is that the
Mhm,
same?" Because some people, can be really nasty,
uh-huh.
that come into a retail business because sometimes I used to think that's the only place they felt like they had power, you know,
Exactly.
and
Exactly.
they would come in there and just treat us like we were, whatever. And then the holiday season would come and they would Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. I said, oh, is that
Who is that
so and so?
person? Do I know
You
you?
know, but it was just like you said, Leah. It probably was the music and just the
Yeah.
atmosphere of the way
Hmm.
it is, and it's kind of appropriate that It's at the end of the year, but some of those positive things you talked about, Ernestine. If we could only take, especially the gratefulness part, and
That's for sure.
if we can take that into the new year, it doesn't have to be just for the holidays. The holidays will
Exactly.
be the renewal of that. And
Exactly.
then appropriately, here comes a new year. We'll take
Mhm.
that in. Everybody talks about,
New Year's
changing things,
resolution.
in the diet and things like that. But how
Uh-huh.
about taking, the emotional uh,
Hmm.
things into the next year?
Hmm.
You know, how you
Exactly.
treat people, how you treat others,
Exactly.
and just take that. Don't wait until Christmas time
Hmm.
to be that person that I won't
Exactly.
recognize. You
Hmm.
Hmm.
know,
So
be
who are you?
be that all, because and especially as we navigate through the world, and we go into stores like you say, you're in the grocery store today, and people used to be coming to me in retail, and you know why would you be nasty to people that are just doing their job?
How about that? That's for
you know
sure.
because you have some inaccuracies in your life, and you feel like, okay, this is my opportunity to flex my muscles
Hmm.
on
Hmm.
these people. And then on the other end, we don't see, the customer service we used to see from
No,
people.
you don't.
It's like you walk into a place, oh, I'm sorry, did I interrupt you?
Right.
You know, I just wanted to get a burger. Is that a problem? You know, and you see a lot of that today. So
You do.
taking this time to sit back, breathe, and
Hmm.
realize how good you have it,
Hmm.
and also at the same time be a comfort to somebody that might not uh, be in the right frame of mind at this point, and just take that into the new year.
Hmm. Hmm.
You know, can't say that enough, but that's just my feeling, and all we can do is talk about it every year and hope that
That's
people
it. That's
pray
it.
us.
That's it.
But it is nice to this time of year to go
It
out and
is.
see.
It's
uh,
wonderful this time of year,
It
and
is.
even in downtown Portsmouth, on Saturdays with the old town farmers market, to walk down in the old town farmers market, and the people just smiling and talking to each other and hugging and just happy, just happy to be out there.
Yes.
And Ernestine, I said, it reminded me of a Hallmark story. That's
Hmm.
what it was like downtown. Now,
Hmm.
wouldn't it be great if we could continue that throughout the year
It would
and
be
not let it
great.
just happen during the Christmas holidays, you
It
know?
would be great.
It
It
was
would
it
be
was
great.
just a great feeling.
And we would see a difference in
Hmm.
the
Hmm.
numbers of people who were struggling with their mental health. And so all we could really say is to be the change you want to see.
Yeah,
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
so we would, if it's important to us that people speak,
Hmm.
then after the new year, we'll say Happy New Year. We'll
How
say
about
good
that?
morning. We'll say, how are you today?
Uh-huh.
And then hopefully we can, you know, get that to get back from we'll get it back from the people that we give it to.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
and we also have to make sure that we show those things, because the news dominates. What
Yes.
dominates in the news is all the negative
All
things.
the
And I
negative
think,
stuff.
Leah, you talk about going down to the farmers market. Remember, we went down there and it wasn't Christmas season, but we
Right.
filmed down there and showed how, just being down there, how friendly everybody was. And this was just
Yeah.
a regular time of the year.
Uh-huh.
And you don't see that. And a lot of that is going on. And I think that would do a lot to let people know
Yes.
it's not all gloom and doom.
Yes.
And it's not all Portsmouth, because we know all the other cities are
Mm-hmm.
experiencing the same thing. It's just people making sure that we show what's happening out there. We got to show the bad. We got to
Mm-hmm.
let people know what's going on. But
Exactly.
it's a lot more good things happening. It's a lot more things people are doing that don't go on social media and brag about it.
Mm-hmm. But you know
Agreed.
what?
They're just
People
doing it because
people
they
get on
feel
me
it in their
about
heart.
posting, but I post because there's so many good things
Yeah,
happening in the city that we don't know about.
Yes.
Good things are happening that nobody's talking about,
Yes.
and you post those things so people can see, yeah, there are some good things going on in the city of Portsmouth. There are some good things going on in our school systems.
Yes.
It's not all the bad news that they want to constantly bring out on a daily basis. There are some great things going on in the city of Portsmouth, and we need to highlight those great things.
Yes, we do.
You know,
Yes, we do.
and I'll give a word to social media content creators. Don't worry so much about the numbers. You
exactly.
know, if you feel it in your heart, you want to show and spread what people are doing. Just do it. Don't worry if you got one viewer, two viewers. Because once it's out there, you're going to affect people going forward. But
Exactly.
don't you look at some of the people that they strive on getting those stores, and their numbers are like way up there. That's fine. That's fine for them, and it works for them, and they're getting monetized for it. But
Hmm.
you know, have it in your heart to make sure you just spread that good news that
And,
we
and
need to
and you can
see
make the if
in
you can make the
conjunction with
difference,
everything else.
and if you can make the difference in one person's life,
Yeah,
you've done a lot.
yeah.
That's
You can
exactly
make
right.
that difference for that one person.
You might save a
You've done a
life.
lot.
That person that is thinking about or right on the verge of suicide, they might see somebody in their same position that have come up away from that, and
Exactly.
say,
Mhm.
well, I can do that too, or maybe,
Hmm.
or just listen to somebody like us say how important your family is. You might not think that, but
Exactly.
you see a family together enjoying each other and stuff, you think, so wow, I can't leave my kids.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Mhm.
What would they
Mhm.
think?
Mhm.
Hmm.
So all that's all that's we need to be involved in that. Well, that's what we're all about here in Portsmouth Coffee Talk, and I just encourage other people to do the same and share the good news, tell the tell all the stories, but share the good news too, because it's a lot more going on.
Mhm.
That's
Mhm.
good.
And maybe it being incumbent upon us to have Ernestine to come on shortly thereafter the holiday just to talk about gratitude. Just to
Yeah,
talk about gratitude.
already mentioned that to her about
Yeah,
after she comes on this time. We want to
yeah,
come right back in the new year and talk
Mhm.
about the new year going forward.
that's right.
Yeah,
That's
I'd be
right. That's
happy to.
right.
we
I
Hmm.
would be happy to. I
yeah.
would be happy to.
Yeah.
So 'cause we don't
And,
always
and
want
you
to
know,
bring
and that's the
those.
one thing that I'm happy that people say in the community is that the thing that they have appreciated about Portsmouth Coffee Talk is that we do try to bring the good things that are going on and the good message that people need to hear.
Yes.
And that's what we're here for.
Yes.
That's what James' purpose was in starting all of this, is that
Yeah.
we have that avenue to share those good things that are going on in the city.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Mhm.
especially in Leah, in the beginning when I was doing the one-on-ones, and Dr. Duncan, like I've said before, goes all the way back
All the way
to
back.
the beginning.
Yeah.
I think I had her before, I met her through my family,
Uh-huh.
and when I found out she, well, as a matter of fact, I think you came to visit me when I was in the hospital.
I
If
think
you
I
if
did.
you remember, I think
Yeah.
Dennis brought you over, and
Mhm.
that's when I first met you, and he was telling me she's a doctor at Norfolk State, and then years later, we got to know each other, and I said, okay, let me bring her to the station and talk about
Mm-hmm.
this mental
Mhm.
health and things like that. And a lot of people were telling me then, man, you need to have some controversial stuff on, I said, well, it's other people doing that. Why would
That's
I
right.
do the same
Yeah,
thing? You
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
know,
yeah.
why would I do the same thing? Well, you,
Exactly.
you have a lot more numbers. Well, if I do, I do. If I don't, I don't. But
We can live with the numbers that we have.
yes,
Mhm.
yes, indeed.
We can live well with the numbers we have.
And plus the stuff is out there forever. So.
Yes,
But
that's for
Dr.
sure.
Duncan, how's everything? I think Norfolk State is shut down. How's everything
Yeah.
going at Norfolk State? And
Everything at Norfolk State is going very well. We just finished our semester. The students finished a couple of weeks ago. And as you know, we brought Missy back, and she
yeah,
was our commencement speaker on the
Mm-hmm.
10th. She gave the very motivating speech to our seniors. Um, and so we're off now until January 2nd, I
mhm,
believe. And so, we'll be in the Rose Bowl. Don't forget to
Yes,
yeah,
sign up on
yes,
the Rose
yes.
Bowl. And so we're doing great things, still doing great things over there with the green and gold.
Mm-hmm.
and that's huge. And bringing Mitzi back, you always talk about going to where the students are, where the young folks are, and
Yes.
bringing somebody like that back where they could resonate with what she was saying.
Yeah.
Sometimes, and it's nothing wrong with that. Sometimes we might bring in some speakers and their speech go way over, because
Yeah.
they're already there, and those people, seniors they're talking to, have to get there. But to bring somebody that's right on their level as far as the language and everything, I think that's a good thing to sort of mix it up like that,
Mm-hmm.
bring people
Yeah.
in.
Her message was really about being, things she had experienced about being persistent,
Hmm.
about people are going to tell you no, people are not going to believe in your ideas, but if it's your idea
Mm-hmm.
and you believe in it, you got to
Mm-hmm.
go for it just like you believe it's going to be. So I
Yeah,
think that resonated with them because
Mm-hmm.
they're innovators, they're creators, and
That's right. That's
this
right.
is not a generation that's going to, take the same path that
Thank
we
you.
took and their
Yes.
parents took. So they're paving new ways, and they're going to have to persist if they're going to be
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
successful.
yeah.
So
If we don't keep up with that, we're gonna lose them. They're
yeah.
already blaming us for messing up the world. So, but
Yeah.
And Dr. Duncan, I'm glad you said that too, because even with the IC Norcom Alumni Association, we recently opened our arms to the young folks. The innovation, the thoughts, the ideas, the contacts that they have, it's amazing. They amaze me every day when I sit down, and they call for meetings all the time, all the time, all the time. They want to meet, but not only they're meeting, but they're making things happen, you know?
Yes.
And so
but
you have to embrace them. So you got to
You
step
have
outside of
to.
that box that we live in
You
and
have.
allow them to come in and bring their ideas and their suggestions in.
Yes,
but
and accept them and acknowledge them and celebrate them.
yeah.
Yes, yes,
And Liz,
yes.
that's so great because like you said, oh, some of the old ways don't work. You know how we would meet monthly, and
Mm-hmm.
and nothing would go on until the next meeting,
To
and
the
we're
next
talking
month.
about the same thing. And and that's how it eventually got.
Mm-hmm.
It used to work like that, all right, but they want to meet because they want to keep things going. Because if you
They
wait for a month, you're gonna lose them.
you're gonna
Yes.
lose, you
Just
lose
like the
momentum. You got to keep the
attention
momentum
span of a
going.
baby, it's not
Mm-hmm.
gonna hold last. So they want to
That's
be
right.
engaged and engaged until it happens, and we have to keep up with them and make sure. And I agree with you, Dr. Duncan. Make sure you appreciate them,
Exactly.
Mhm.
acknowledge them, and appreciate them, and make sure you include them for the first time. And I
And I
think this
tell them,
is it's
and
a
I
big
tell them
thing for this.
constantly
It's a
how much
big
I
thing.
appreciate them. I say,
Mhm.
you're working me hard, but I appreciate every moment of it.
But you setting them up to take over, like you said, to be
Exactly.
in a position. So it has to be a transition like
Mm-hmm.
that
Mm-hmm.
because the alumni hasn't worked that way. You
Mm-hmm.
know, uh, a lot of work that alumni has done has been good, but it hadn't
Mm-hmm.
been like that. So
But we've been
you can't just
closed.
all of a sudden say, here,
Yeah.
you got to
Yeah.
make that easy
That's true.
transition. And that's the way it's going. And I think
Mm-hmm.
some results from it.
Yes. Good results.
Yeah.
Good results.
Let me, Dr. Duncan, you have any last word? I'm trying to find that little Christmas thing I played.
Oh, okay. Just to say thank you again for this opportunity. I'm just always so grateful that people are wanting to talk about mental health, about mental wellness, and in this particular instance, as it relates to the holidays, but for us to just really focus on the things that really matter
Mhm.
and to have conversations with those that we love about honest and authentic conversation. And for those that we don't know, to just demonstrate what we talked about, and that is being kind. And
That's
so
right.
you don't know someone on the street, we can still say good morning. We can still
Exactly.
say happy holidays. So I
Mhm.
wish everybody happy holidays. And I look forward to the next time we meet.
Okay. Thank you,
Well,
Leah.
well, Dr. Duncan, I am just so excited every time that you come on. My wife just told me you can still do it stand. But anyway, that was for you, of course. That was for you, all right?
Thank you.
But I just want to say, I'm always overjoyed when I know that you're coming on. And just like I told you, I said, oh my God, Slim is not gonna may not be on, the Colonel may not be on. And you said, oh, but we can talk through this thing. And I said, yes, you're right. And I'm thankful that Slim felt well enough to come on. But I'm
Yes,
most of all thankful for the information that you gave. You really brought it home and prayerfully it touched somebody's heart and somebody sees what they need to do in order to get the stress from off their lives.
yes,
You gave them the tools. You gave them some tools that they can use. And hopefully if they missed it, if you missed it, you can always go back. James will have it on YouTube later. You can go back and look at it on YouTube and look at the strategies that she has given for you so that you can have a healthy Merry Christmas,
yes.
because you don't want to just be merry and not healthy. Let's have a healthy Merry Christmas.
That's right.
And so go back and watch. And Dr. Duncan, I just thank you so very much. And I look forward when we can come here and talk about gratitude, because we have so many things to be grateful for.
Yes, we do.
Even
Yes.
when we look back on the bad things that are going on, you can look forward and see some great things that are still happening. So I want to say thank you so very much. Merry Christmas, happy holiday to you,
Thank you.
and to you, James, as well.
Yeah, thank you. And everybody, wish you a Merry Christmas and remember the real reason for the season.
Real
And
reason.
we won't be here Monday, but we'll be here next Thursday with our guest, Leah, the attorney,
Oh,
Christine.
Christian Hawthorne,
All right.
attorney Christian Hawthorne will be on next Thursday, and we're looking forward to that as well. That's one of my young innovators who've come on board, and she's doing some amazing work. She's with one of the largest law firms in California, and she does contract law. So she's an amazing young lady, and I tell you, you need to come on and hear what Christian has to share with us on next Thursday.
All right, everybody, be safe. Wear your mask if you're inside and it's a crowd of people. It's still out there, people. And I think everybody now knows someone who's had COVID. Luckily we have the vaccine that keeps us from getting too sick, but we still can get it.
Oh, yes.
Believe me, I've had it now and I'm quarantined for a while. So, but have a Merry Christmas and we'll see you next
And
time.
if you haven't gotten the new booster, go out and get
Get the
it.
booster.
Go
Right.
get it. It's worth it. Believe me.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to take it up that loud while you were talking, Leah.
That's okay. We didn't hear it.
Okay.
Portsmouth Coffee Talk,
Oh, I'm sorry. Boston Coffee Talk is here for our voice
our community,
and
and our
our
future.
future.
And we salute you, Dr. Duncan. We salute
Salute
Thank
you,
you
you
Dr.
so
for
Duncan.
all the
much.
great work that you do.
Thank you so much. See
Enjoy
you guys
yourself out there,
another
Colonel.
time. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Here's the music, James.
All right. Take care.
What happened to the Christmas music? Didn't come-
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, everyone. Okay, everybody. Thank you all. Thank you for watching. Those of you on Facebook Live, thank you for watching, and Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa, all of the celebrations that are taking place during this month. So everyone, just be safe. Be
Yeah.
safe.
And I
You
hope you
can't.
don't see your mama kissing Santa Claus.
Oh, how about that?
But if you do, it's okay because we know who Santa Claus
We
is.
know who Santa Claus is. That's for sure. Okay,
All right,
everybody.
have a good evening.
All right,
Good
take care.
evening.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.